Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens, the screenwriting step-by-step project, episode 258. This is almost the last one of these. I have been coming to you every afternoon to let you look over my shoulder, share my screen as I wrote a script in order to teach a part of screenwriting that I think is undertaught, which is the process, the day-by-day, line-by-line work of taking vague thoughts and feelings and ambitions, turning them into an outline, turning that outline into a rough draft, then rewriting that rough draft into something that you can give people to read. That process is the basis of screenwriting. If you can't do that, no matter how much you might have the greatest idea in the world, I don't talk about how to write a script that will sell or a script that will be good. It's just how do you get it into this crazy form and get it done? How do you organize it? How do you get through the process, the phases of writing something that's sort of iffy and then figuring out how to make it better? That's what this has been. It is not the best process. It is not the only process, not the only way to do it. Everyone has to figure out their own way of working. Every artist must make their own path. All I'm trying to do is show you some things I figured out when I was doing my 25-year career writing for TV and movies. There was nothing to teach how to do this, so I had to figure it out for myself. On my way out of the business, I am leaving behind what I learned in case it will help you when you are facing the blank page. If it helps, use it. If it don't, throw it out. That is the most important thing for every artist. Study everything you can, learn everything you can, try everything you can, and keep the stuff that works for you. So, among the stuff that might work for you is the first 3 playlists on my channel. This is where I have tried to reduce down the things I've learned into very brief, practical lessons. Each one of these videos is only around 10 minutes long. I tried to boil it down to very simple tips and insights, things to think about, things to try. The title of each of these little lessons is also the great big bold letters on the thumbnail, so you could just look through these lists and say, oh, I'm sort of curious what he has to say about genre or flashbacks or all these different things. There's about 30 of them now. There should be about 50 of them when I'm done. And I urge you to look at those because that's where the good stuff is. This little experiment here, this step-by-step project has been just that, an experiment. I needed a way to live stream and I thought, hey, if I'm writing and nobody's watching or talking to me, at least I have something to do. And that's why I started doing this. And I also do believe that I've never seen anybody show the Bob Ross of it. Let's start by putting down this color and then try and work up this color. That's what I've been trying to do. So I do hope that you will check out the rest of my channel, especially those first 3 playlists. That's where the best stuff is. All right. Well, we got a bunch of people here. Hello, Najo. Hello, Jean. Hello, Nathan. Hello, Thumper. Okay. Yes, it's evening somewhere, Thumper. It's evening for you, I believe. You're in the UK, I would think. So here's the deal, folks. I think we're going to end this series this Friday. Today's Wednesday. I think I got about 2 more days worth, maybe go into next week, but I think that this is it. And I'm trying to wrap my head around that because it has become a habit for me, and I almost want to keep it up just because it's a nice habit. It's nice to contact you. And what I'm going to probably do is break it down to 2 days a week. Just do Tuesdays and Thursdays and do a whole assortment of different kinds of live streams. All, of course, on the topics of screenwriting. That's what's going on. In the meantime, let's get to this last bit here, which is today I want to finish up this pitch document because I'd worked it down to a pretty good thing. This stuff, I looked through it all, and it's not bad. It's a good start. It's certainly a place I can leave it, except this ideas for storylines in other seasons. That's what I'm going to call this. Boom. And I'm going to put it in the heading form. For possible storylines. Possible storyline. All right. So this is where we are. So let's make this shorter. In season 2. Oops. Comes out. Let's take out the is. All right, so well, obviously, if it becomes a bestseller, it is going to come out. So let's keep that short. Becomes a bestseller. Ideally with at least 2 of these elements spinning into each. I'm trying to think of how to... Good morning, Donna. Donna is, I believe, on the other side of the planet in Australia. Hi, glad to have you here. I am just trying to write out now a nice form of this wild list of story ideas that we developed last session. Each ideally each season would be each season would spin at least 2 of these, at least 2 plot lines from this list. This already says, since the title of this is some ideas for storylines in other seasons. If possible, if I'm saying some ideas for storylines, I don't have to say possible, because obviously they're possible. That would be okay. So Tomorrowland is Australia. I like it. All right. What I'm trying to say is, from this list, a season would have at least 2 of these plot lines, would involve at least 2 plot lines from this list of possibilities. Oh, there it is from this list. Yeah. All right. So in season 2, Norman's book, based on season 1, becomes a bestseller while Madeline leaves. Let's keep the tenses the same. Norman's book becomes a bestseller, so Madeline leaves. Job to train as an EMT or therapist. Okay. But new true crimes. Interrupt these interrupt and complicate. But new true crimes interrupt and complicate these new paths they are on. But fresh true crimes just complicate these paths. Their new lives. Okay, in season 2, Norman's book, based on season 1, becomes a bestseller while Madeline leaves her job to train as an EMT or therapist. But fresh true crimes. Fresh true crimes complicate their new lives. All right. Hello, Victoria. I have a protagonist who's called by her last name. In Act 2, a romantic interest calls her by her first name. Under the name heading, should the first or last name? This is a good question. The answer is be consistent. If she's always been, like, whatever the script calls her is not what people call her in the script. So, for instance, if you're calling her Tanaka, and so you say, Tanaka comes in and puts her grocery bag on the table. Or it says Tanaka, and then a line of dialogue, gee, I wonder if he'll be home for dinner, then always call her by that name. Never change it. However, if somebody in the story says, hey, Victoria, that's fine. That's in the dialogue. That's what they call her. That's absolutely fine. But you should not change. If you change what the script calls a character, it's very confusing. And it doesn't matter what the people, I mean, everybody, if somebody calls somebody dumpling, it doesn't mean you would change, then say dumpling goes and, pulls out a gun. What people call each other is irrelevant. The script should always call them by the same name. Okay, boom. Yes, thank you, Nathan. Yeah, Die Hard 4 the action is very entertaining, and I actually just like the character development of the partnership of him and Justin Long, and the frustration level of him against the villain Timothy Olyphant is just well done. It's just a good solid action movie, cleverly done with some great action sequences. Okay. All right. So, okay, why, somehow or other, I did this. CSK and Xena. I don't know what that means. Okay. I think we will take out the hype here. someone comes in to solve a cold case, a new cold case. Is that really worthwhile? Definitely this other one. Someone from their past gets in touch. This is too vague. Madeline's old job needs help with a cold case or looming threat. Yeah, that's cool. Let's capitalize the beginnings of all these. Boom, boom, boom. A fan or employee. A fan commits crimes. Let's just leave it a fan. Madeline or Norman are framed for a crime. Okay, so these are plot lines. In addition, there. All right, so what I'm going to do here is make this list. I'm going to make it boom, boom, boom. There, that's so what hello Jay, it's going okay. I am just finishing up this document with other okay, this could go very Scooby-Doo, but it could also be psychological. One of Norman's exes. Okay, so the thing is, so we got these things, but these are plots. These are like story elements, but they aren't mysteries or plots to be solved. So what I'm going to do is take these and format them alike so that so that's cool. This is like a bunch of possible plot lines. I like that. And then, in addition, there are non-mystery storylines about their I think what we're going to do is Um, do you mean for me doing this? No. Um, if you have them, you could certainly put them in. I don't believe that you want to over plan some like many seasons because you're going to have a lot of other people with a lot of their money tied up wanting to have input on what happens in the story, on how many episodes, on what kind of storylines there are. Once you start working on a show, you are collaborating with many, many companies and individuals. No series is put on without several companies being involved. Okay, there's usually a distributor, a network or streamer. There is a production company. Very often, that production company will be part of or owned by a studio. There's like layers and layers of companies involved. Each one of these companies has different people, many different people, who are in charge of developing and guiding and having input on the programs they make because they are investing their money. They believe, rightly so, that they should have some say in what that's going to happen. So therefore, you do not want to write or plan an entire series. Yes, a pilot isn't not just good enough, it's all they want. Nobody wants you to write a whole series unless if you've decided that you want to write alone an entire series, which is an enormous amount of work. But it has been done. True Detective, Downton Abbey were written by single writers. I believe they had people, advising them and helping them. But I really don't know. All I know is that they had single writer credits for the entire show. But do note those were relatively limited. In Downton Abbey's case, it's just 6 episodes in a season. In True Detective, I think it was 8, maybe 10. Anyway, if it's a limited series and you want to write the whole thing and you are happy to sit there and write essentially, 10 60-page scripts, go ahead. I mean, that's okay. The way that the business usually works is they will read a pilot and then you will develop the rest of it with a staff. With Victoria's Ghost, the first time you mention the character, would be the whole name and then just use it? Yeah, I generally would. It's nice to give somebody a whole name. For instance, in this script, when you first meet George, it says George Roisman is sitting at his desk, and then from then on, you just call him George. So yes, that is exactly how I would do it. No, most people don't want. I mean, honestly, some people would. They would like to write. I don't. I personally feel like the problem with writing scripts is that if you write, a whole lot of scripts for a series, and that series doesn't get made, you've put a lot of work into something that basically no one can ever really see. Most people aren't going to read 600 pages of script. So I once again always ask you, does it have to be a script? Is there some way that you can think of the project you are working on in a form that you can finish, that you can develop and create and finish so as to present to an audience, no matter how small, even if you hand print and give the copies to different people, if it's something that they can open up and read and not be thinking, oh, I wonder how they would photograph that or something, but to actually write fiction or any kind of creative new form. There are some people who write a mixture of drawing and writing, sort of graphic novels plus novels. You could do a mixture of podcast and writing. I don't know. There's so many creative possibilities now. If you are willing to work cheaply and by yourself, you can create and own it by yourself. And I urge you, always, all of you, to think, does it have to be a script, or can it be some art form, some narrative art form that I can use, a novel, or even a play or a podcast is easier to create than a filmed entertainment. So I urge you to consider, is there another way to tell the story? If you do that, if you write the novel and people like it, that's a good way to sell it to the movies, and then they'll make it, and you could write the script then. But it is very frustrating. You know, as someone who spent most of his life writing scripts for things that did not get made, sometimes getting very well paid for that, but that time may be over. That the time in which they paid you a lot of money to write scripts that they didn't make is over. It was a weird confluence of situations that happened from the 1980s and 90s up through the early, like 2005, 7-ish. And that's over. But that happens to be when my career happened. So I got lucky about that. But even then I was thinking, why am I writing all these scripts that no one can ever read? No audience can ever see. A handful of people in the business read them. Some of them paid for them, put them on their shelf or whatever. And a lot of them just got rejected because they weren't producible. So I kind of wish that I had invested some of that time and some of those creative energies into some form that I could now put out there myself. If I wanted to publish it myself, I could do that. So that's, and I am going to put some of those scripts on this website, because why not? Every writer should want everyone to read everything. That's my thing. In addition, there will be non-mystery storylines about these characters' lives. Tries to move into okay. So that's good stuff. I'm liking this. All right. So there we go. So now what we've got here is this section of the document says some ideas for storylines in other seasons. In season 2, Norman's book, based on season 1, becomes a bestseller while Madeline leaves her job to train as an EMT. Emergency medical technician. It's the person who goes out with the ambulance. They're kind of halfway between an emergency room doctor or nurse and a ambulance driver. It's an interesting and high energy field. There's actually a phenomenal movie about EMTs by Martin Scorsese called Bringing Out the Dead. It's underknown, underrated, and really good. About one bad 3-day period in the life of a particular burned out EMT. Anyway, these new life paths. There we go. Hi, Kirby. Nice to see you. Welcome. I am just rereading what I have just been tinkering with in this pitch document. So, ideally, each season would involve at least 2 plot lines from this list to keep the complications jumping. The twists and turns. To keep the twists and turns jumping. There we go. In a pitch document, you can be kind of pitchy. to survive training is at high stress. Madeline becomes a therapist. Okay. Okay. So this, I've got kind of a whole arc for Madeline. And I think Norman's I haven't figured out. So what is Norman's ending? I would like it. It doesn't seem like Norman should end up writing his book. It just seems like his book. Norman ends up leading a cult. No. Let's see. What is the right ending for Norman? Norman becomes an influencer. I think maybe that's right. Norman becomes an influencer for old people. There we go. That's it. Accidentally becomes an influencer. Yes. The ever. Yeah, there we go. Okay. No, don't be sorry for interrupting. No, everybody can interrupt all they want. I am just playing here. Short scene of two characters speaking Spanish. Should I write the dialogue in English, in Spanish, or subtitle it in English? This is an interesting question. I will show you a kind of one way you can do it. Okay, actually, I'll show you two ways you can do it. Let's just open up this script format just so that I can show you in script format. So let's say that you wanted this dialogue to be in Spanish. So what you could do is you could write, they speak in Spanish with English subtitles. Okay, and then you italicize that or bold it or something, and then you put all of that dialogue in italics so that people know, oh, that's in Spanish. In other words, that they understand that that's how it will be presented. But you can also write, the other way to do it is you could do, all right, hold on. I am just going to hang on a second. Boom. I'm going to briefly go offline here to. Okay. Okay, well, this is Turkish. Okay, so so what I'm going to do here, I had to use Google Translate to try and do some translate. So okay, so you can do this if you are in the translating mind. So you could say Turkish. Okay, so the other way you could do it is you can say they speak in Turkish with English subtitles, and then you actually put the Turkish translation and the English there in parentheses because it would be in subtitles. Does that make sense? That's how, or you can just do it like that, where you just say it's in Spanish with English subtitles. I think it's kind of nice to show the other language and then put the subtitles under it. It does add page space, which is not actually realistic, because realistically they'll happen simultaneously. But it's kind of nice if it's not going to be your whole script. I kind of like the way it looks when you show the translation and then underneath it in English. Yeah, so that's how I would do it. All right, now I'm just going to put this back the way it was. There we go. Okay. So that's the conventional way. With all of these things, there is no absolute rule, but the convention would be to either just put it in italics and announce it as subtitled, translated and subtitled, or actually show the translation. Yeah, I just did that. Did you see it? I did it up here. I said Dickerson and Weitzman speak in Turkish with English subtitles, and you would do that in italics, so as to distinguish it, to say, hey, this is not part of the story, this is just me talking to you. Or in theory, you could do it like this, in parentheses, to further emphasize this is not part of the script, this is just me explaining that, and then yes, you put the text that is going to be in Turkish, you put that in italics too. That's how you handle that. Okay. Does that make sense, Thumper, Victoria? You got it? That is how you do that. Okay. Questions of our moment. All right, I actually think that this is kind of done. Yeah. Did I get all of it? I think I did. I guess if it's one line instead of a scene, you do something like in Spanish, this is my line. Actually, here's what you would do. If it's just one line, hang on, we're going back to the script. Okay. If it's one line, you would do in Spanish, subtitled. And then you could put it in italics. In general, italics is a good way to represent something is in a foreign language or coming through a phone or coming through a radio, something to suggest that there's something unusual about that bit of dialogue. So that's how you would do it if it was just one line. You don't want to do this every single line. Like, if there's like an exchange of like 10 lines, you can, and people do that. They just say in Spanish subtitled, and they do that for every single line. Boom. Hold on. Like that. And if it's not too long, you can do it. I find that distracting. I personally would rather just put a sentence up at the top saying this conversation is in Spanish with subtitles, and then you leave it. But there are people who do this. Once again, as I said, there is no law here. We are in a lawless land, the lawless land of screenwriting, in which people do all sorts of different things and you can't control it. So that is a fact. There is no actual rule. You do what you feel is the most readable and involving and fluent. The main thing about any kind of stylistic question is, how much can you not distract the reader from the reality of the moment? That's the goal. The main goal of all screenwriting is to draw the reader into the feeling that what they are reading is happening, that they are reading a story about a thing that's happening, and not a set of instructions for a group of people who are going to make a film. That you want to feel the living moment of the characters is real and involving, which is exactly what you feel when you're watching a movie. That's why you want the script to feel that way. Here's the thing. Do we want to do this? I think we do. Yeah, okay. This is good. This is good. I'm liking it. I think there's one more. Boom. All right. So there. Okay, I don't have this little marker there, so I'm going to not have it here. All right. Hi, Larry. Nice to see you. All right. So in this case, there's 2 white spaces. So I think I'm going to do 2 white spaces between each character. Yes, Traffic's an excellent movie by Steven Soderbergh, unless you watch the British original TV series. But I believe that the movie, certainly the one with Michael Douglas and Don Cheadle, is wonderful. A good deal of it takes place in Mexico, and a good deal of it is in Spanish. It's wonderful. Some very, very powerful filters, color filters, to differentiate between the different storylines. It's a very bold move, which Soderbergh is good at that kind of thing. Yeah, okay. I believe this is done. I think I have reached the end of the, as today's goal was to reach the end of the pitch document, so that tomorrow I can go back to the last pages of rewrites, just making some corrections. And I think that'll get done tomorrow. and then Friday will be the final episode. That's how it's looking at the moment. In the meantime, we still have about 15 minutes. If anyone wants to ask a question, go ahead. I am just sitting here. I can keep talking about Steven Soderbergh and many other, whatever else you want. Soderbergh wrote, first of all, most of you may not know this, Steven Soderbergh is a magnificently talented director who really likes to try different things. He comes from a real indie film, art film sort of mentality. However, he also has managed to find a way to work in the studio system and did the Ocean's 11 first three series. And then but with the power he developed from that, he would stop and go and do odd things. He did all sorts, just really remarkable array of work. And he keeps pushing the boundaries. He did a movie shot on an iPhone. He did a series for Cinemax called The Nick, which was phenomenal. Anyway, so yeah. Not on Monday. I am probably going to start, I will put out an announcement video about this, but I'm probably going to start doing live streams only on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I may actually do them earlier in the day. I'm trying to shake it up a little and see if I can, without losing the group who comes in at this time, open up to the people who say it's too late at night, since much of Europe and every place to the east of that, going from Los Angeles, going that way around the planet, this is in the middle of the night and you can't watch it. So I'm going to try moving it back a couple hours. I think I'm going to try and do Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. my time, 2 hours earlier, see who we meet that way. And I will be, yes, doing some behind the scripts, like putting my scripts out there and talking about them. But also I'm going to do a little bit about screenwriting history and a lot more Ask Me Anythings, but also just random topics. I'm going to set up a new type of live stream called I Have Thoughts, in which I read a lot of articles that make me think, oh, I should talk about this. And I've been saving them up, and I'm going to start talking about it. So that is, Donna Nelson is on the other side of the world. So I'm not sure what that's going to do to her. Yes, you studied. Where did you study that? Robert Towne's dialogue. He's very good. Actually, my favorite Robert Towne script is not Chinatown. It's not Shampoo. It is actually a movie called Tequila Sunrise. Yay! So yeah, there's this movie. Okay, it's not great in many ways. Hold on. Tequila Sunrise. Interesting. Something seems to have happened. Let's see if this. Oh, there we go. Okay. There's a movie called Tequila Sunrise from the early 90s, I believe. Anyway, Tequila Sunrise, it stars Mel Gibson as a drug dealer who's trying to quit drug dealing. In fact, he's getting almost out of drug dealing, and building a company, building a family. He is old friends with a guy who has become a cop. So it's just this classic old school story idea. But because of so it's Mel Gibson and Goldie Hawn's husband. I can't remember his name now. Kurt Russell and Michelle Pfeiffer. The two men both are falling in love with this woman who owns a restaurant in their coastal California town. They're both former surfers. It's this fantastic crime romantic triangle, but the main thing is just the dialogue and the character work is so solid. It's very slick looking. Town also directed it and honestly did a great job. The music is terrible, but Raul Julia is in it. I truly, truly recommend Tequila Sunrise. It is, you want to see a great little film noir story with like just such a high level of understanding of how characters are playing each other, and how character dialogue can be entertaining and witty, but at the same time always dramatic. It's just beautiful. Anyway, so yes, Robert Town. He was known as a script doctor back in the 70s, but then he later became essentially a writer director. He actually did a pretty good episode in the Mission Impossible film series. One of the better of those. And yeah, it's good. Hello, magic internet movie called Atoms. Up is also a phenomenal script. Yes. I assume that's what you meant, is that you were, or were you just saying hello? In which case, Up. But also the script for the movie Up, the Pixar movie, is beautiful. Well, actually, Up is a really great example of giving a character a goal so that we can understand when they get what they need. The kid in Up, he just wants to sit to get ice cream at this ice cream store and sit and watch the cars go by and talk about the cars, because he used to do that with his dad, I believe. And so while he obviously wants to survive, he wants to save people, he wants to, all the things that he wants to do, but it's clear that what he really wants is to develop a relationship with a father figure. And the way that that's symbolized is by getting ice cream at this particular store and watching the cars. And so at the end of the movie, when they get ice cream at the spoiler, they get ice cream at the store and sit and watch the cars. You go, he has found the relationship you want. But you can't always say, like, I want a good relationship. So if you give them a specific thing, like ice cream and watching cars, it provides the power of the larger issue. Will the scripts you put out to be the original drafts you wrote, or the final drafts, scripts that got approved after all the other rewrote them? Well, I'm not going to do that much that other people rewrote. I'm going to do some stuff that I rewrote other people, but I'm not putting their drafts in because I don't own those. I don't have the permission to do that. Mostly I'm doing my own original scripts because that's what I want you to read. I want you to read what I wrote because that's what writers want to do. When you write something, you want people to read it. And there's a lot of scripts I wrote that never got produced. So therefore, I'm going to talk about those. But I'll also be putting the final production draft of Off-Season, Fracture, Disfigured. Those because, and I'll see, maybe I can put some earlier drafts to show the difference. In some cases, like in Off-Season, it changed almost not at all. That was an extraordinary experience. In Fracture, I will show you that there were so many drafts, I could never put them all out there. Literally uncounted changes in that. Thank you. I am on Instagram as I believe as Writing for Screens. Writing for Screens at Writing for Screens. It could be Writing for Scree because I think I ran out of letters. but try looking for Writing for Screens. I have not been attending to social media for the past year. I will try and get back to it a little bit. I used to post some little helpful tips. But thank you, BD. Really nice. I'm so glad that you're here. Yes, Wilder's Double Indemnity has amazing dialogue written by a great mystery writer. Along with Wilder, I believe Chandler was in on that. Let me just check my IMDb here. Double Indemnity. 1944, Fred McMurray. If you guys have not seen this, Chandler and Wilder. Holy crap. Watch Double Indemnity just to see dynamite dialogue. I will tell you when I do that. It's too long a story to go into now. The answer is it was a job, and almost all scripts. I believe one of the things I'm going to do the I have thoughts on is I saw in some article they were talking about the average number of writers now on any big, tentpole movie is like 30. There were 6 on Fracture, and that was a lot. It felt like a lot, but it's not that unusual. I know people. Most of the people I know who write things for Hollywood, they are either replacing someone else or are replaced by someone else, and so yeah, the average is 4 or 5 writers on many scripts. So that's why. The reason so many writers in Fractures. I came in third. I was the third writer, and then there were 3 writers after me, and then I came back, which is unusual. But we can go through mine. I'm not going to analyze them line by line because that would just take too long. But I will certainly be happy to talk. You should analyze them line by line. Everyone, first of all, everyone's analysis is going to be different. There's not a right way to understand things. I will try and do. The problem is I can't just sit here and read a script out loud to you. It would take weeks. So, but I will go through some of my scripts and talk about how they work, because I know how that happened. I don't feel qualified to say how, even The Godfather, which is quite well documented, there's still an awful lot we don't know about how that happened. Would you advise to write a script for a documentary about a real social issue? This is tricky. A documentary is kind of, hi Kyle Eddy. A documentary is, I believe, the important thing about documentary is that you are trying to get at a truth that defies very often the cliches of storytelling, and therefore you have to find what you believe really happened, because any documentary is an interpretation, but your interpretation of this true issue will determine the script. However, I do believe it would be useful to look at the people who you are doing the documentary about, if there are people, if it's not just an issue, and saying, well, how do I understand what they are trying to do? But I would not say you want to stick too much to the 6 questions, because that's going to force your interpretation into a formula. And that's the last thing you want to do with the documentary. You want to find a way to tell the story, the actual story of whatever happened, and find a way to make us understand the desire and the problems they faced and what they did about it or failed to do about it. That is definitely it. But it also depends on what if it's a real issue, you may be dealing with different people, and there may be different sections of the documentary that take on different people, but there isn't one character going all the way through it. So the answer is not really. I think that it's useful to think about the story of each person, but I would not try to fit it into a formula. I would just say, what story am I trying to tell about these people or about this issue? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. That's entirely depends on the director, the writer, the script. Yeah, you're welcome. I would say the thing about documentaries is that your main goal is different than to tell a simple story. Sometimes, if you have a documentary that is literally one person's story, you may kind of shape it then. But even then, the shapes of people's lives and the shapes of stories are very different. And you don't want to lie in order to make yourself a nice story. That's a crime in a documentary, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, and with that being said, see y'all tomorrow when we will take on a little more of this step-by-step project. Until then, go write something.